And I think when you are an empath like I am, you are endlessly curious about other people because you like people and you care about them and you want to know about them, whether it's taking on their experiences in an acting role or whether it's sharing their experiences through a news commentary show.
All right. All right. Gabriela, thank you so much for joining me on the show. I really have been looking forward to this conversation. How are you?
Of course. I'm great. Really good, actually.
Really busy, right? I see you got a whole lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, we just launched a show last week. So yeah, it's been a little bit busy.
Wow. So you know what? I want to know that like the behind the scenes story of that. Like tell us a little bit. Like what does that entail? We all know what the outcome is, but all the behind the scenes stuff, all the work you've done, put into this, just give us a little glimpse of like your life of what it took. I mean, this has been what, years now, right? This is like years in the making to make this happen.
I
Or
mean,
almost, right? Yeah, almost.
the show itself or the career?
Well, the career is a whole lot more. You know what? Let me start with this real quick because it's funny. I was bragging about, hey, I was telling my mom, guess who I'm having on the show tomorrow? I was like, I'm getting
Oh
Gabby
my
on the
gosh.
show, and she goes, oh, that's so funny. I just talked to her, to Marilu, your mom, yesterday, and she says, yeah, I'm so proud of her. She's got her first full-time gig. That's what she said, which is hilarious, right? The moms, the moms saying that.
Yep. Yep.
But
Yeah, I mean, as a performer, you are constantly sort of like looking to the next job all the time, and that's just
right?
a natural part of this business and this
Yeah.
career. And so you get so used to that. So the idea of having something that's actually steady is almost kind of weird. It's
Yeah.
kind of like it's kind of foreign to me. Whereas for other people, the idea of not having something settled is sort of a scary thought,
Yeah.
and people really they like the security of having something steady. But I don't know. It's like, is the grass greener? I don't know. I think it depends on the person. And
100%.
I mean, for me right now, I'm really happy to have something sort of steady and stable. I mean, especially during a global pandemic when a lot of people don't even have a job. So I got to
Yeah.
say, I'm really grateful.
Awesome. And I gotta say, I'm and not that I don't know how to say this was not condescending. Not that I'm like the little cousin. I'm proud of you, but I'm proud to say I know you and what you're doing. Maybe that's a better way to put it.
Aw,
But I keep
that's
bragging
yeah.
about you to everyone I know. I'm like, look what she's doing. Look, it's so cool. So yeah, it is really
Aw.
awesome. And I want to say that I'm not more proud. I guess I kind of almost idolize you in a way. I'm like, look what she's doing. This is so
Well,
cool. Like
hey.
following your dream and going for it, and you're doing really well. And everyone I show, it's like that they have the typical the Fresquez woman is like, oh yeah, they're strong and they're feisty and they're determined, and you definitely have that 100%. And that shows. That really shows.
That's so funny that you say the typical Fresquez woman, because I've never really thought about what that looks like, but you're totally right. That is the
Right?
typical Fresquez woman.
No, I look at some family gatherings, and we always sit back, and Andres a lot of times has been part of that. We sit back, and your brother, with Daniel, we're like, so I still have a hard time calling him Daniel. It's like Daniel Andres. That's what I always want to call him. That's why I grew up calling him. But anyway, we sit back and we're like, we're kind of like in awe and admiration. We're like, look at how these women are so strong. It's like, it's a really cool thing we took observation of that. Man, it's been many years now. We took observation of that, and you definitely are carrying that characteristic forward. So I commend you for that.
Well, I'm happy to be a typical Fresquez woman.
not, not a bad thing to be a typical what? That's right. Words,
No, not
right?
at all.
So let's get it back to the question. I'm sorry to got sidetracked there. Tell me a little bit about like your journey up until this point, and you got like huge success in a lot of people's eyes. And like I said, it causes, like, your brother talked to recently. He's super proud. Angela, super proud. Your mom, super proud. And we're just really excited for you. So tell us, like, maybe the not so exciting part, or the part that it took, the hard work behind this, and where it took you to get to where you are right now.
You mean the 14 years of starvation and not knowing where your next paycheck was coming from. That was a lot of fun. But honestly, it's, I mean, it's so cliche, but it is such a journey. Like you don't always know where you're going to end up, but every opportunity you have is an opportunity to learn and to grow and to become a better performer and a better artist, and to sort of allow a natural evolution of your career to happen. So, I mean, I originally went to school for broadcast journalism. I switched to public relations and international relations. So I did go to, I do have a journalism background. And after that, I worked in politics a little bit, actually. And then after that, I switched gears and started pursuing acting full time. So then I was auditioning and I was going to classes and I was doing that whole thing. But along with that, I kept landing hosting jobs, over the course of 10 years. I couldn't avoid it. I kept getting these hosting jobs. So along with being on sitcoms, on comedies, on dramas, on commercials, every few years, I would land a pretty solid hosting job. My first one being this web series. It was an unpaid, non-union web series called Inspira, which means inspire. And the whole idea behind it was that we were going to profile inspirational Latino leaders throughout the community. So that is kind of to me, where it all began, because that sort of planted the seed for everything that I'm doing now. Yeah. And I would have never thought of myself as someone to speak for the Latino community or be any kind of, I don't know. It just, because I felt so out of touch with my roots. I grew up in Southern California, and yes, I would travel to Mexico and visit my family. And yes, there was a little bit of Spanish spoken in the home, but I didn't grow up around a lot of other Latinos other than my family. Yeah. So it was sort of a fish out of water experience from the beginning. And after working for so many years and then getting another opportunity to host a show called Latin Nation for LATV, I just kept finding myself landing these opportunities that I would have never thought of or imagined for myself. I would have never pursued these opportunities. They just kind of came, it's always funny because it's the thing that you're after, the thing that you're chasing all the time seems to always elude you somehow. Yeah. And then this other thing keeps popping up, and you're like, okay, well, maybe the universe is telling me I need to go this way, but you resist it for a long time.
Hello, you're calling knocking. Hello, you're calling knocking.
And I'm like, but that's not me. That's not for me. I don't, it was interesting. But along the way, I was still, working in TV and having a lot of fun doing that. And that is by no means something that I will ever not, it's not I ever felt like I had to choose, because you really don't. Yeah. No career looks the same. No journey is the same. People find their way to their sort of purpose through all sorts of avenues and opportunities. But anyways, so at some point along the road, a couple of years ago, I decided I really wanted to full force push myself into creating my own content. It all started because my talent manager, so I have a hosting manager and an acting manager. So my acting manager dropped me out of the blue. And I had just signed with this manager after leaving another manager of 8 years. So it was a big move. Wow. Essentially, I was in this long-term relationship with my manager. I booked a bunch of TV with him. And then I made a leap of faith and switched to another representative, and they dropped me out of the blue. So that was a big blow, which ultimately led me to being F it, I'm going to do my own thing. I don't care anymore. I'm not going to keep chasing down managers. I literally said, I was the next manager is going to come to me. I'm not going to knock on doors anymore. I'm just going to throw myself into something else. And that's how the LatinXpert was created, essentially. Awesome. So I started creating that, and then I got a little bit braver the second year and decided to actually raise money for it, because I was self-funding, which, as we all know, is completely unsustainable. So as I got more involved in creating the LatinXpert, which was this sort of news commentary with a Latinx perspective. So I take anything from the political crisis in Venezuela to why mental health issues are so taboo in our community. Anything that had a little bit of like a Latino bent to it. And I would take it, explore it, do like a 5-minute episode on it, give a little commentary, throw in a few jokes here and there, make it fun and digestible and easy to watch. And anyway, so I started doing that, and then I raised money for it, and that's when I really started taking it more seriously. And basically, as I started doing that and really committing to that fully, an opportunity arose to audition for a program for NBC Universal, and that's kind of where I am today. So from the acting career to the web series to an executive sort of seeing something in me that was a perfect fit for the show that I'm working on now, which is Radar 2020. So it was a pretty seamless transition from literally creating a web series from scratch, where I was writer, executive producer,
all the hats, yeah,
host, talent, all the
yeah.
editor, everything. So the transition was, pretty seamless. And it's funny because I think a lot of performers and actors, they get used to the idea that somebody's always going to like take care of those things for you. Like that's someone else's job.
100%.
And so they lose the opportunity to sort of learn how to do things on their own. That's why I have a lot of respect for people who create their own content, because a lot of us get scared because we want the quality to be so good and we don't have the resources to do that. But learning how to do it, even if you fail, is invaluable, because when the bigger opportunities come, you're prepared for it and you've done it before. For better or for worse, you've at least had that experience and you're prepared for it. So I'm hosting a show called Radar 2020 for NBC Telemundo. It's on YouTube. It's English language, and it's one of the first few English language shows for Telemundo. And much like my web series, it has more of a conversational, irreverent tone, sort of targeting that younger generation of Latinos, like 18 to 35, but it's really not exclusive towards any particular demo. It's just geared towards sort of ushering a new generation to Telemundo.
Yeah, it's super awesome. And like, yeah, it reminds me of like, you're the Selena of the TV world, you know, like,
oh my God, that's
it's
so
like,
funny.
it's awesome, right? Is what you're doing is awesome. It's like the breakthrough artist, you know?
I always think of that line from the movie when have you seen the movie with J-Lo?
Oh yeah.
That line where she's having to be interviewed in Spanish, and they're like, well, how do you feel? And she's like, me siento muy excited.
Yeah, that was
and
great.
It's so endearing and so charming. And the Spanish news media just falls in love with her because she didn't know the word, but she was able to just use her charm.
She was authentic, right? She was our authentic self, you know, and people really, they attach themselves to that or drawn to that. Yeah. And I think that's what I see with you, and it's awesome. It's awesome to watch. Like I say, as a a bystander watching it, it's really cool to watch. It's really
Thank
cool.
you.
And
that means a lot.
You said something that I kind of want to touch on. It was a couple things. Let me go to this one real quick. I love that you said basically a lot of actors pretty much they don't know like what it takes to wear all the hats, the content, the production, all the stuff. But what's funny is the logical progression. If you see a lot of successful actors in Hollywood, or any platform for that matter, a lot of times like they do that for a number of years, and it seems like the ones that really, really get good and make it to that next level, they become a producer or a director, and they kind of almost go back to that. It's pretty profound that you're doing that right now. It's like at a young age or young in your career. Like it might be 14 years in, but that's still young as far as that's concerned. That's really cool. I wanted to comment on that. And then I also wanted to say, how do you know how to put this? I'm at a loss for words. That basically, I'm again, I want to go back to the point where I'm just going to say proud, as lack of a better word. I'm really proud of what you're doing. And it's really cool that you're doing that for, I think my viewpoint, like the right reasons. Like you went after something and maybe it wasn't your calling per se as what you thought. This isn't what I want to do. I'm the wrong person. but you really attacked it, and I think you really went after it. So I want to say that's really cool. It's really cool that you took this thing and you went for it, and you're doing a phenomenal job. And more than just like the acting side or the entertainment side, I think you really have a message, and it's meaningful to a lot of people. So that's kind of what I want to get at. And with that, what is your message? Like, what do you hope will be like a major takeaway from all the effort you're putting into this?
Honestly, it's twofold, I think, because working with the team on this new project, I definitely care about the substance of what we're doing. I mean, there's just no way to separate myself from that. I care deeply about the issues that we're talking about, and I definitely have a point of view and a perspective.
Yes.
At the same time, I do still see my role in this as being an entertainer. I want people to be able to watch it and feel okay when they walk away. I've described myself as a little bit of a hope junkie. I'm like, I have my moments, but I am an eternal optimist, and I'm an eternal optimist who likes to talk about hard things. I do like to talk about hard subjects and hard things and take a deep look at them, but also be able to talk about it in a way that we can always inject a little bit of humor, a little bit of playfulness, a little bit of reverence.
Yes.
I never want to take myself too seriously, because the topics are serious enough, the things that we're talking about. I mean, we're talking about racial injustice and climate change and the wealth gap and the pandemic and how it's disproportionately affected a lot of communities. So that's serious enough.
Yeah.
So in that, I see my role as creating something that people can come, they can learn, they can take away a new piece of information. And ultimately, in an ideal world, I think we can all learn to be a little bit more compassionate through that, by learning about other people's experiences,
100%.
by exposing ourselves to new ideas and new perspectives. We can be a little bit more understanding, a little more compassionate, because I definitely think the world needs more of that.
Yep.
And at the same time, we can make fun of ourselves and crack jokes and have a good time. I definitely feel like you need both.
You really do, and that's like there's some serious issues that need to be addressed, right? But in a way to where everyone can kind of come to the table and have compassion for each other, and not take themselves too seriously, and not get stuck on this us against them kind of mentality. That humor helps, the entertainment helps. It kind of, and then just experiencing both different perspectives. I think that's where, this podcast is about growth and gratitude. And there's no way you're going to grow without hearing opposing thoughts, right? Like, you got to hear all the different perspectives. That's how you grow. You may not change your mind, but at least you have a better understanding. At least you can put yourselves in that person's shoes. And I think that's really important. And so what you're doing, I think that's really ultimately what it does. It's like, because you're using your gift of the entertaining and the comedy to make it, it's more approachable. People can listen to it, and understand it better and be a little bit more open-minded about it, right? And that's
definitely, yeah. I've had numerous people tell me, I don't necessarily agree with everything you say, but I really enjoy your content. And I'm I always hear that and I'm like, wait, really? I'm always shocked every time someone says that, because they're like, no, and it's totally unsolicited, people will mention that. And I'm like, okay, when I hear something like that, I'm like, all right, well, I know I'm doing something right, because I'm not trying to convince anyone of anything. That is not my job. That is not my goal. I'm just presenting information. And yes, of course, I have a point of view. I'm a human being. We all have our own opinions. We all have our perspectives. And in this more sort of conversational style of news, where we are taking a little bit of a point of view, you're gonna, people are gonna see through the bullshit, right? So if I'm not bringing 100% authentic Gabby all the time, people are gonna see through that, and it's gonna be disingenuous and uninteresting. If you want to watch unobjective news, well, first of all, good luck, because there's not a lot of that out there. I myself listen to a lot of NPR. I feel like that's a little more middle of the road, but I disagree with even that. But, you know, whatever news channel you turn on, you're going to get a really intense perspective.
Yeah.
With our show, like, you might get some perspective, but, you know, we're not going to take ourselves that seriously.
Yeah.
So I think that, yeah, I mean, I think when you're not constantly hitting people over the head with something, it gives room for people to enter the conversation.
Yes.
And I think that's super important.
It really is, and it's that's kind of like entertainment as a whole. Like I'm a huge fan of a good movie, a good story. I think we all are. I think it's kind of like in our DNA. We want the good story. We kind of want to, not just look at it, but feel like you're a participant. And that's kind of the way I view like what you're doing. It's like it's really important because okay, this might be what you're doing is a little bit different because it's not fiction per se. But you have fiction, but fiction is based on reality. Fiction helps you get into the story and kind of realize what's important, and it gets you to be a participant because it plays on your emotions, it does all this, and it's moving. Now, so I've always been attracted to good theater, a good movie, a good plot, a good story, because of that. Because it's based on real life, whether it's fiction or reality. It's based on real life, and we can all relate to the struggle. We can all relate to the difficulties that come about. With that, I want to go back to what we first started with. Is let's get behind the scenes a little bit. So you're in Hollywood, right? You're in the LA area, Los Angeles, California, and you're so determined to do what you're doing that you moved before you was Florida. You went to it was Canada, right? Is that where you went?
Oh, yeah. So I
For a
moved to
short time?
Toronto
Toronto, yeah.
briefly because my fiance was actually filming a Netflix show up there.
Right. Yes. So,
and at that point, I realized that I could work on my web series remotely. So I just said, screw it. I'm going to Toronto for a little bit and gonna get a change of scenery.
And then now you're on the whole another coast. You're in Florida.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's a lot of adjustment, and that's a lot of sacrifice, and that takes grit. That takes determination. And that basically, it takes coming into my first question for you is you got to have a pretty big why to want to, this is it's big change. And whether you want to say that it's, oh yeah, this is good for my career or not, it's still change.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still a challenge, and it's still a change of scenery. And you've made that decision, you're committed. What in your life, this is one right here, this instance right here, but even previously, during your past, your 14-year issue of not issue, but your 14-year challenging career of being the starving artist and going through all the steps that it takes and staying at it, staying on the course, what was it that kept you going? What was your why?
That is such a great question. And I think the why changes, honestly.
100%. It
but
evolves.
It definitely does. And I think for me, there was never a plan B. There just never was. There was never a fallback. I think that I've been a performer and a storyteller from a very young age, and that just never went away. I mean, I even tried to sort of, I tried to go into a field that I felt was more maybe reliable by switching, because in high school I was very much into drama, into theater, into improv, all of that stuff. And when I went to college, I was like, all right, I need a serious career. And even then, I transitioned to journalism, which, like you mentioned, it's still a form of storytelling.
Yeah.
So, and for the longest time, it sounds so obvious and like, it sounds so obvious, the connection between the two, like being an artist, being a storyteller in that form, and transitioning to
now it does,
the world
right?
of journalism.
Yeah,
now it does, but that then, God, for the life of me, I didn't really understand or feel the connection. And now, I mean, to me, they're inextricably linked. So
yeah.
I think that storyteller inside me, that performer, whatever you want to call it, that comes from a genuine curiosity about people and about people's experiences. And I think when you are an empath like I am, you are endlessly curious about other people because you like people and you care about them and you want to know about them, whether it's taking on their experiences in an acting role or whether it's sharing their experiences through a news commentary show. But I think either way, it really stems from that desire to be a kind of a voice, be kind of a storyteller, and wanting to do big things in the world. I think some of us are just born with a desire where we need a big stage. Like we can't settle for small town anything. Like I've always needed to have a big stage. I've always needed to have a big voice. And I don't know what it is inside me, but it's always been there. It's never gone away. And I have never for a second thought of doing anything else. It's just that thing and that why has taken on so many different forms that it almost seems like I've had all of these transitions, but really they all stemmed from the same drive, from the same purpose, from the same love of feeding that curiosity. So I think that answers the question. I'm not sure. It's always such a hard question to ask because I think it really does evolve, and it stems from like so many things that are so deeply rooted within us. I mean, as you know, a lot of performers, their drive and what kind of has made them stems from like childhood trauma. You know, like we could go that deep. And I'm the youngest of 4 kids in my family. I was always fighting for attention. My parents divorced when I was younger, and I wanted to be heard. You know, I wanted to be respected. I wanted to be heard, and I wanted to be seen, and I wanted to make my parents proud, and I wanted that attention. So that little kid inside me, she hasn't gone anywhere, but she's just gotten a little more sophisticated with how she tries to get her parents to be proud of her. And I think there's a little bit of that in all of us for sure.
So when you say like your why is basically, it's a number of things, but ultimately it's the curiosity. What does that get you? Like if you really want to analyze that, and you think about that, it's like, okay, it's my endless pursuit of getting to know, you know, humanity better. And then I think there's a little something different there. I mean, not deeper, excuse me, a little something deeper with that. So you want to get to know humanity better. Why? Why is that? Like, what does that do? What does that lead to?
I think that's all about connection.
There you go.
I think it's about wanting, it's such a fundamental need in human beings.
Yes.
And that connection can be deeply fulfilling. It can be exhilarating. It can be so many things. It can make you feel so many different things, but I think it really stems from that. And there's so many different ways to connect, but that just happens to be, you know, how I move through the world, whether it's connecting through someone's experience in a role, connecting with their experiences, telling a story on the news, or through an interview. But I think it really stems from that for sure.
Awesome. Like I know I'm also deeply curious, and I love to travel. I love to experience new things. I love to experience new cultures. I love to interact with new people. And that, to me, I don't think I'm ever going to outgrow that. I think I'm always going to want to do those things. And that's, again, I think it's kind of along those same lines, as I just want to better understand like the people around me and the whole world. Honestly, I'll never see the whole world or understand the whole world, but I think by trying to experience a little piece of it, it kind of sticks with you. You know, you kind of get a little bit better picture of what it's like, and you kind of get a little bit better idea of what it's like to be in someone else's shoes. And I think like I'm going to do that for my whole life. I think that's a big reason. Like one of my favorite things to do is travel and experience new things. And I'm not that person that wants to go and, well, I want to go and take the pictures and do the tours, which I like that too. But I like going places for an extended period of time. And I like literally like going into like the Airbnbs to where I get to go into the little villages and see like just not the tourists, but the normal people that live there, you know, and I just want to experience, okay, so how do you guys live life? And I'm like, I'm really deeply curious about that. And I want to see that in all parts of the world. One day I want to say, I've been to most corners of this world, you know, and honestly, that's my curiosity.
Sometimes I feel like there are literally two kinds of people in this world. And one of those people is what you describe, wanting to go experience a new place as the locals experience it. And the other one is the one staying at the resort.
Yeah.
And there's not much in the middle. You're either one
You're
or the other.
very true. Very true. Yeah. To me, doing that is like, I might as well just stay home and do that. I live in a beautiful city, San Diego. So it's like, if I want to do that, I can do that at
Yeah.
home. I want to go in there and experience
Yeah.
what is it, what's unique about this place. And it's usually the
Yeah.
people. It's usually like the culture, the food, the experiences, the people. There's all those little nuances that you're not familiar with in your, whatever you call home. And it's nice to experience that through someone else's eyes. That just, like I said, I don't think I'll ever get bored of that. And I don't even know why I went on that tangent.
Well, maybe you're a little bit of a curiosity junkie too.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
I mean, you're hosting this podcast, so.
Well, you know what? In all honesty, that's literally why I'm doing it, is that because I'm curious, and it's almost a selfish thing. Like my aim is growth and gratitude, and by being grateful, I want to give back. But there's some selfishness there because I do want to grow and experience and see opposing views and everything that I don't know. And a lot of these subjects are in a selfish way because I want to know, I want to learn. But I feel like by me doing that, it's going to help other people because I'm sure there's lots of people out there that have the same mindset, right?
Yeah, but I think that that's a healthy kind of selfishness, and I think that that's important. I think not enough people do stuff like that, whatever it is, whether it's what you're describing, or whether it's just like listening to whatever that little voice is saying inside you. I think if more people did that, we'd be in a much more peaceful and harmonious world.
True.
So I think fulfilling that, whatever that is inside you, is a gift. It's a gift for yourself, but it's also a gift for other people. Because I felt the same way when I started my web series. I was like, well, I actually don't know a lot about my culture, and I want to learn more. I don't know about the political crisis in Venezuela. Like, what's that all about?
Great way to do it, right? Become the teacher,
Yeah.
and you learn a lot, right?
Right. But I think to be a great teacher, you have to be a great student. You have to have that curiosity.
Yes.
Because if you're not engaged and passionate and excited about the topic, how are you going to make other people follow suit?
Yep.
So
true. All right, let me get back to another question. And this kind of goes out of the why a little bit. It's like the logical progression of it. Let's go back to young Gabby, and the age is different with everybody. For me, it was about 10 years old, but it's always different. It's that innocent dreamer is like a good title. It's that when you're at that point in life to where you still want to do that crazy dream, like you have this thing that life hasn't told you this isn't crazy. It's like, I can be, like I can be president, or I can live on the moon, or I can be an astronaut. Things, and right now you would say, well, yeah, you could, but before you got to that part, before the buts came, before you were like, no, I'm going to do this, I can do this. The dreamer. Let's say that Gabby came right now and saw your life. Like, what would her perspective be? What would her questions be? What would she be proud of? What would she question? Be like, wow, you want to do this, how come you didn't? Like, what would be her thought process just coming into your life right now and seeing it? What would she think?
I mean, I think she would be damn proud, frankly. I think she would be like it what I'm doing now is more than that Gabby could have like thought up in a way. I think that there were always big dreams, but the dreams were a little more simple. I think that she would be like, well, but how did you, I don't understand. So like you write and like you produce, but you're also an actor and you did, wait, what? Like, I think she would be, she would be like, I thought this was like a simple, like we were going to stay on this track and we were going to go this direction. And you kind of like went off you went all over the map. I think she would be like a little perplexed, I guess is the word, but she would be very proud. And honestly, I think that a big piece of that younger self is still very much inside me. I'm still very much a dreamer.
Beautiful.
I'm still very much an optimist. And I know, that there are no limitations on what we do. But obviously life gets in the way, and it's not like you're always within that mindset. you have your ups and downs. You have the times that are a little bit rougher and those dreams that you have seem a little bit farther away. And then you have your ups where you feel like anything is possible. And I think that's very characteristic just of like the type of journey that I've had for so long, but it's just this constant up and down. And I wonder, I'm like, what attracts somebody to a career that literally has you on cloud nine one day, and then the next day you're like, my life is over. I'm not doing anything of value. It's going nowhere. Because there's plenty of that. Like, I might be in a more positive headspace right now. There are plenty of moments where I felt just at a loss. Like I have no control over my career. I'm not where I want to be yet. So I think I kind of went on a tangent. What were we talking about?
No, you were actually, that was pretty good. And that we're gonna go to the next step, and this is more. I'm gonna change this just a little bit and modify it. With that in mind, you got young Gabby is super proud of you where you're at. A little bit confused because probably, wow, you kind of took on more than we planned for, right?
yeah, definitely.
But with that, and then here I want to focus on the part where you said, right now you're in a really good place and you're very positive and optimistic. But there was times when it sounded like, you didn't say it, but it sounded like you were at a point where like, should I keep doing this? Should I keep pushing? Do I pivot? I don't want to say give up, but do I change? Am I doing the right things right? And reason why I'm saying this is, speak to some of the young actors right now that are probably on that same journey in the beginning stages of it, and they might have some doubt. They might have some, am I doing something wrong? Am I made for this? Is this something that I'm capable of? Like, what advice do you give to that person, like right now, going through those ups and downs? Because it's not easy. What you're doing is like, I think it's a tiny percentage of people that go into this career actually make it. So for those people that don't make it, what do you tell them? What do you tell them to keep them motivated and keep going and keep persisting and keep getting up when they get knocked down?
Well, I think that in this career requires an incredible amount of resilience, because that self-doubt, it's not unique to me. It's not unique to anybody. It's not unique to the most successful actor you'll meet.
Yeah.
That's going to be there. And I think my advice for young actors feeling that is to make peace with it, because it's really not going away. You have to learn how to live with it. And if you can't, then it might not be the career for you, honestly. Yeah. And because if you can't, because there is so much up and down, because there's so much rejection, and they're mostly hard times, that's just a fact. It's mostly hard. And then you have really great highs, but it's mostly tough. And if you can't figure out a way to make peace with those tough times and find fulfillment in other ways that is not outside of yourself, then you will very likely end up unhappy in this career, because that is the reality for the majority of people. And in a way, it continues throughout the entirety of your career. There's such a small percentage of people that end up being able to live solely off of their acting career. And I have met a lot of people that have, but even with those successes, like there are downtimes, there are slow times, there are global pandemics. So I think even in a time like this, especially, it's a wake-up call to a lot of people to be like, okay, am I really happy doing what I'm doing? Am I really happy booking 1 or 2 jobs a year, and then the rest of the year I'm at my waitressing job? Like, is that enough for me? Is this sustainable? And you have to find a way to make it sustainable for you. And if you can't, then it becomes really tough. And at that point, I'm kind of like, you kind of have to decide for yourself if it's right. For me, there was no second option. For me, it was all about, how do I make this sustainable?
Yeah. And
that ended up being pivoting slightly and creating my own content, and really putting the auditions and the acting stuff on the back burner for a little bit, and taking a risk to get to a point where I could have an opportunity like I have today. Yeah. But that comes with sacrifice, and that comes with having grit, and it comes with having a lot of belief in yourself. And being willing to move through those really rough times, because as high as the highs are, the lows are low. And I think for me, having a really great partner has helped with that. He's also an actor, so we're extremely supportive of each other, and that is huge. Awesome. And then also building, if you're not in a relationship, building a community of other people that support what you do is critical.
Yes.
Because there's going to be a lot of people that don't support what you do, and there's going to be a lot of people that say no. And so you need that supportive community. You need to be able to fulfill yourself outside of the yeses from the industry and the casting directors that so seldom come, and find a way to make it a sustainable thing, because a lot of actors do quit because I think that they give up on the process. Mm-hmm. I don't think that they give up on themselves or their love of what they're doing. I think that they're just like, I can't go through this inconsistency, this up and down.
Yeah.
It wears on you. And I think that is probably what happens with the majority of people. And so, like, when an actor does decide to leave the business or give up, I absolutely pass zero judgment, because I don't even see it as giving up. It's just, it's not for them. Like that experience is not for them. The artistry is, and that's never going to go away. But maybe that constant push and pull of the pursuit is not for them, and that's totally okay. And I think people need to do, what's healthy for them in the long run, because it's rough out there.
You personally, is it worth it?
Is it worth it?
Has it been worth it? This struggle, has it been worth it?
Well, so far, yeah. But I'm also like, yeah, of course it's worth it, because I'm doing what I love, for better or for worse. Yeah. This opportunity could be gone tomorrow, mm-hmm. But it's worth it because I'm happy. It's worth it because I'm doing what I'm happy. And even if I fail at something that makes me happy. And I think it's when it starts to become whether you fail, whether you succeed, the tumultuousness of it isn't making you happy anymore. And I've seen that with friends of mine and with fellow artists. But for whatever reason, I don't know, I must have a little bit of like a crazy something in my head that makes me continue to move forward and like push past all of that like negativity and that negative self-talk. I honestly feel like to pursue a career in acting or in the entertainment industry, frankly, like you have to have kind of a screw loose. Like there has to be something a little wrong. Like, because you have to have this like relentless,
yes,
unshakable optimism.
Yes.
Forget about the confidence. That's always a work in progress, but you have to be always like, you get knocked down and then you get excited tomorrow because you have another opportunity for something else. It's like, it's this constant, like I call myself a hope junkie, and it's like a constant, there's something else coming. There's something else coming. And you're excited by that possibility.
Yeah.
You're excited by the possibilities and the journey and the pursuit. And as long as you can maintain that excitement long enough, you might end up with a career, but there's no guarantees.
I think that's common with anybody that operates at a high level. Like any high achiever, any elite, and we'll call it an athlete, an actor. There's a lot of places that they're elite. And I want to say the entertainment industry is very unique, even in its own right, because not only is it like your elite status, but I think there's probably far less. I don't know. This is my head. I don't know the actual numbers here. I'm thinking there's far less actors than there are professional, athletes, or any other, or CEOs, or any like super elite, high achieving individual. I would imagine that the entertainment industry is probably less than most of those. So that's like, and then you're in the spotlight all the time. So you got all these other compounding things. It's a very unique place to be. And it's very attracting, I think, because of that. And I think, like you said, you kind of have to have a screw loose. Like you have to really want to go after that and really want that. So it's it's like it's beyond just a high level, high achieving position. There's something more to it. Like you said, you always kind of create the spotlight. And I think with that comes that, I think I have something to say. It's like I feel if you're doing that, you probably have something inside of you that wants to be said. Like you have a message.
Mm-hmm.
You got a message for the world, and you like, I want that spotlight for a reason. With that, what comes next? Like with this, if you could write your own ticket right now, and you could just dictate exactly what's going to happen. What's next? What do you have planned? Like what's going to come next?
Well, here's the thing about plans. I've learned, like, I definitely have specific goals in mind, and even like specific shows that I'd like to be a part of. But I try my best to stay open to basically accepting the fact that I may not know what that even looks like. I mean, I think it's obviously important to have goals and be goal oriented and have a specific vision. And I think I do have that. But at this point, I'm honestly like, I feel like the more success you have in your career, the more your optimism and your confidence builds, or at least with me, because maybe for other people it's different. But I feel like I've kind of thrown my hands up and been like, I don't even know, but I'm open for all of it. Awesome. Like I give up trying to like write my own path, because I think whatever like God, the universe, whatever has in store for me is probably so much bigger than anything I'm even
that's awesome.
dreaming of right now. So, I mean, I definitely want to move into producing, because I feel like that's like a natural progression for me. I would love to direct. I know that if I ever move into sort of like hosting my own show again, or even on this show, I definitely would love to have that producing power. Like I would love to have more of that creative control.
Yeah.
Because I think that really is a calling for me, in the sense of like, I think when you're so like being the host of a show, your voice and your face and I write on it as well, is so much a part of like the DNA of that show. It's like almost to not pursue the next step as like a producer or director or whatever that may be, it's almost like how could I even continue in this career without doing that? Because it's not like somebody's handing me a script. This is me now. Like this isn't Gabby the actor. It is Gabby the performer, but these are my words.
Yeah.
So I think whenever you're dealing with your own, your authentic self and your own words and your own point of view, I think the natural progression is to move into a producing space. So I definitely see myself going that direction, but I still love television and film, and I love acting, and I don't see that going anywhere. But I think that there's always opportunities for that along the way. So I'm not worried about that. I'm confident that those opportunities will come. I mean, like I look at Oprah, for example, but she started out as a broadcast journalist. She was an investigative reporter. Then she had her own show. Then she had an even bigger show. Then even before, I think she had Oprah, she starred in The Color Purple with Steven Spielberg, because she was an actor too, and a talented one.
Yeah.
And she's been able to sort of like write her own path, and you can't put her into a box, No so way. I feel like when you start out in any career path, you think of it as like this linear thing. Like, I'm going to be an actor, I'm going to go to classes, and I'm going to get a few roles, and I'm going to get a TV show, and then I'm going to get an Oscar, and it's going to be great. It's like, well, I don't know. Maybe you have more to offer. Maybe you're not just an actor. Maybe you're a writer too. Or maybe what you really want to do is direct. Or maybe you create your own show, or I don't know. But I think staying open to that is really important. I think a lot of actors specifically don't, because we really get fixated on like this one goal.
Yeah.
And we forget, we have like blinders on almost. And in a way you kind of have to. Yeah. But I think that when you're just a creative person in general, that you're naturally gonna be attracted to a lot of different aspects of whatever the industry is that you are in, especially if you're a very curious creative person. You want to have a foot in all of it. You're like, oh, I want to try that. That looks fun. Let's do that. Let's do that over there. Which sometimes can be, I don't know, for me, I feel like a little ADD because I am interested in so many things, that honing in and really focusing on one thing is actually really hard for me.
You know, but there's a certain beauty to that. And like, as I'm listening to you say this, it's almost like liberating to be in a position to where you just like, you know what? I'm in flow. I'm enjoying where I'm at.
Yes.
I really feel like I'm aligned, and I'm totally open to what the universe, to what God, to whatever opportunity is going to come my way. That I'm going to take what's the path in front of me. And that's like a beautiful thing. I mean, to have that frame of mind, and not a lot of people would be freaked out by that thought. They'd be like, oh my gosh, I got to know what's next. I have to do this. But to be at peace with that, that's like, to me, that's a beautiful thing. And I can totally relate.
Yeah.
And
well,
I think that's,
I mean, ask me next week how I feel on that day. I might not have that same perspective.
But that was a beautiful thought. That's a beautiful thought, because everyone's always like, yeah, you got to have your focus. You got to have this goal. You got to make the clear, defined steps to make sure that this goal happens.
Yeah.
But to just be in that state of flow and just know and have the confidence that I know what's coming next is going to be the next step that's right. That's really cool. And it probably brings a sense of peace in a way.
Well, I think when you pursue a career as an actor for 10 plus years, and you experience that turbulence of that pursuit, I mean, it's almost like nothing can throw it at me. Like, I've been there, done that. I've been without a manager. I've been without a job. I've been paycheck to paycheck. I, have had those moments of deep self-doubt. I've worked so many different side hustles. I've worked in bars and nightclubs and fancy restaurants and dive bars. And I'm like, I feel like even that has prepared me so much for what I'm doing now. I'm like, I've done that. It doesn't scare me. Like, the uncertainty and the having to humble myself to take a waitressing job, that doesn't scare me. I've been there. Bring it. Like, what do you got? Like, what's the worst that can happen? I go back to that. Okay, cool. I can handle that. I've done it.
Yep.
It's fine.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. And I think a lot of people get caught up in, unless you've been in the dirt and you've had to eat shit and you've been, had that struggle, then some people, maybe they haven't had it, or not enough anyway. And so that brings the fear. Oh, but what if? And then you're afraid to take risk. And without risk, there's no reward. And I love being in a position to where you're like, not that you don't have anything to lose, but you're not scared of it. You're like, everything I have, I'm not scared of that. Bring it. Let's go. Just like you said, bring it. I'm ready for it. I've been there, done that. Nothing new. And that's liberating. And that puts you in a position of being ready for the next great opportunity. And that's kind of what I heard when you were speaking. It was like, I'm just ready. I'm ready for whatever happens, and you're gonna seize it, and you're gonna grab a hold of it, and you're gonna run with it. I have no doubt about that. And that's pretty cool. I can't wait to see what comes next.
Me neither. It's exciting. Life is exciting.
Well, I'm very, very grateful that you decided to join the show with me. I want to have a place where people can find you. Where's the best place to follow Gabby?
Well, probably where we have most of our conversations, on Instagram.
There you go.
At Gabby Fresquez, GabbyFresquez. And then, of course, we also have our social media for our show, Raider Telemundo, on Instagram. So definitely check that out too.
Awesome. And I will definitely have those in the notes. I'm going to add LatinXpert as well. Is that a good place as well?
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to add that too. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for joining me on the show. It's been really good catching up. I'm so excited to see what you have coming next.
Thank you. This is so much fun. I feel like it was like a really positive therapy session.
Well, it was fun for sure. And you're always a joy. I can't wait to catch up and see what's happening next.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Give my best to Bayardo.
I will, for sure.
All right.
Bye,
Take
Chris.
care.